That is crazy. It really is. Now it's going to make like I have two meetings going. I told you guys it's going to be fun. This is going to be fun. I know what I want. I just can't figure out how to get back there to get it. Documents. It won't pick that up because it's not been saved, right? Okay, guys. I don't know. Okay, if any of you are out there, I'm sorry for the mass confusion. The only way to really test this thing is to have a live stream and see what happens, because it's hard to simulate. As you guys are going through, and I haven't bored you to death here, but as you guys are going through and learning about C4FM, I did all that 7 years ago. So this is that part's new to me. The thing that is going on now is I'm learning about YouTube and all that other good stuff, and trying to get camera angles set up and everything. But I know we put down a couple things here. So anyway, I know you guys have, some of you have been to seminars and have had situations where you've gone to seminar and you had breakfast with Gordy. Well, hey, we're having breakfast with me, the Elmer guy. So been trying to get this stuff organized this morning. I'm sort of rushed out real fast and scrambled some eggs and got a piece of spam. I don't know how many of you guys like spam, but hey, spam and eggs are awesome. Anyway, so this is like I said, breakfast with the Elmer guy. I put down we were going to talk about the C4FM call frequencies. There's a lot of, I know, confusion about waiting for somebody to come up with a call frequency, and that's not the way it works. The way it works is we as hams sort of get together and park ourselves on something, and we're the ones that actually set the standards. The coordinating groups merely certify it or make it official. They don't come out and say we're going to make up a band plan today for this new feature that hasn't been developed yet 10 years from now. It doesn't work that way. So when those new features come out, they take a look and see how we are using them, and always making sure that we're not interfering with the existing band plan, or sometimes that's what has to happen because everything's taken up. There's nothing that is free. It's all taken up somewhere. So what we do is we use the existing things that we need to use. So the band plans that we want to use, we go ahead and we use those. So Yaesu came up with this frequency to use for 2 meters. And if somebody knows of a 440 call frequency, please let me know. I've had several people ask me, and I'm pretty sure I saw that somewhere. I just don't know where I saw that. I can't find it again, so like I said, there's one gentleman in, I believe it's in the Philippines, and there is an issue with, I guess, some frequencies there, and they I guess it can only use 440. I don't really understand the reasoning for it, but they was looking for a 440 frequency that was like the 2 meter frequency that people recognize. So if you have or know of such a frequency, please let me know so that I can pass that on to others like him. I like I said, I just don't really have much information along that line, so I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So that's the thing. I know I've had several people make comments on my Facebook account regarding getting coordinated or getting these frequencies accepted. And like I said, they're what we do. Coordinating bodies merely react to our actions, and they try to hone in so you can go in and not be interfering. They can't. They have to give us something, so we have to take it. We have to take it, or we don't get it. So you just go in and make use of something, and there's a lot of people that are doing it. So on 10 meters, the frequency on 10 meters for the call frequency is 29.250. 29.250 C4FM 10 meters. 6 meters C4FM is 50. I believe it's 51.500. 51.500. I believe is the call frequency for the 6 meter C4FM. So that's, those are the frequencies. The other thing we were going to talk about was going to be the 991. And I'm not here to talk about the 991 and how it works on sideband or CW or FM, anything like that. I'm here just that very narrow focus of C4FM. So if you have a 991 and you are using or wanting to use the C4FM, a couple things you want to remember when you're setting up for 10 meters. You want to make sure in the lower left hand corner, first of all you put your mode in C4FM. Then the menu, the little menu bar at the bottom, you want to make sure that says DN. You don't want delta wide. You don't want wide digital. You want narrow, digital narrow. Also, make sure AMS is off. Do not have AMS on. Leave it off. You're not going to have anybody on FM, and all this is going to do is going to make a problem for you. So turn it off. Make sure the AMS is off. That'll solve your problems. A lot of them. So you want to do that. You want to take and, like I said, DN. Put your radio on 29.250, and then verify that you got a good match on your antenna before you get in there and start transmitting. Next thing you do is you push the GM button on the bottom of the screen. I know you can change those menus down there. I find that the menu that came with it was very adequate. I haven't had a reason to change it. So I recommend leaving it where it is, and this way we're all talking the same language. But the GM, the group mode, you want to put that in group mode. When you do that, your radio will send out a beacon. Let's stop right there. I'm going to stop. Before you do anything else, when you first turn your radio on, ever, Not that every day, but I mean, when you first had turned your radio on, it asks you to put your call sign in. Please put your call sign in. Because when you push that beacon button, guess what it's doing? It's transmitting. And if you leave what's in there that the radio came with, believe it or not, it says FT991. That's not a call sign. It's not a call sign at all. And so you want to transmit with a call sign for more than one reason. The main reason is it makes it legal. Secondly, when you have your radio transmitting and it has your call sign, in my case, KA6SUB, it sends that out, and the stations that see that and hear that, it comes up on their screen and puts my call sign up there. The other thing you need to do is you need to make sure you have your correct latitude and longitude set up in your radio. There is no GPS antenna, in this radio. Now there is a plug that you can plug one in, an external one, but I'm going to say 95-98% of the people out there are not mobile. So where it is today is where it's going to be tomorrow. So it doesn't make sense to spend the money for a GPS attachment to that if it's just going to stay there all the time. And so that's their attitude, mine too. So I think it was a good choice. They save money. We don't have something we don't need and we're paying for, because you're going to pay for it. They put it in there, you're going to pay for it. So you just manually put in your code. When you turn your radio off with the on off button. Leave power applied to the plug in the back. Because if you turn it off and you don't leave power applied to your power cord, your memory is going to be erased. So you're going to lose all sorts of things. Your latitude and longitude. You're going to lose your call sign. You're going to lose the settings that you put in here, the memories for the frequencies you have in there. So just leave a battery or something attached to that. Put a trickle charger on there so you always have some power on that thing and keep everything going. So that'll resolve a lot of issues. So going in and getting that done, and now when you're transmitting, every time you turn it on, you'll have your call sign in there, your memories, because I have the 29250 is in my memory, so I just select that, and it stores everything. So all you have to do is push the GM button to tune it up every time. Make sure you've got a good sync, but you get that in there like that, and you're good. So now, just to give you an idea, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is going to be fun. This is, I swear, going to be fun. At least that's what they tell me. So let's see if I can accomplish. I'm going to try to give you an idea. I've had my beacon going on my my radio this morning since I got up, and lo and behold, let's see here. let's put that on there. Let's put it over here. Where are we at? I'll leave it there, see what happens. Okay. Okay, so this is what the screen looks like when I left the radio room a little while ago. So I'm in California, up in the Sierras, and let's see, you can't see my pointer. Okay, so we see Otis in there. I've talked to Otis. He's a nice gentleman. I've talked to also Katie Zero IRF. I have not spoken to the other. I haven't spoken to any of the others. I may have spoken to Joel. I'm not sure. I'd have to check my log on that. The screen, to give you an idea, only holds 9 contacts. Now, when you have a call that's active, meaning that they're within range, the screen is going to show up like Otis's does. It's going to have a blue background. It's going to be highlighted around, I think it's got a green bar around it also at the time, and usually has the mileage and the direction. Now, you can alternately set up your radio so that it will, instead of showing that, it will show an S meter, and you'll have an S reading as to how the strength is, and that's good. I like this. This is the default, but there is merit to having the S meter, because if you got an S1, chances are the data made it through, but you're probably not going to talk to them, and the data might even be questionable as to how long it stays up there. So every time his radio sends a beacon out, it refreshes that on the screen. Now the others are not that color. They're different. That means for 20 seconds or longer, they have not had they haven't seen an activity. They haven't seen any activity from that particular radio. So IRF there, his beacon has not reached us. It's probably beaconing. We're assuming he's beaconing. He's probably it's probably happening. He's on the air, but propagation is such that it's not making it. And so this is, we just have to assume we can't reach any of these guys. Now, that does not mean you can't talk to them, because I've done this before. I've heard a voice and talked back to a voice, and the data is not making it through. And eventually the strength changes, and then the data will pop up. So there's nothing that's 100%. There's no rules. I mean, you're just going to have to know. Hey folks, it's HF. It's going to do what it wants to do, and we just think we know what's supposed to be happening, and we don't. Now, I'm going to be right up front with you guys. I am not an HFer. All these years, I have really done very little HF. So I'm not as adept in that as some of you may be. And on the other hand, I've talked to a lot of guys that have said, I've done nothing but HF all my life. I do CW. You know, I don't, I hardly, you know, I hardly even get on, or I don't even have a UHF VHF radio. You know, they don't get on 2 meters. Um, or if they have one, you know, they it never really gets used. And I've had some people I've talked to like that have gotten interested in C4FM and have gone out and bought a 300 or some, you know, 2 meter radio, got on the air and have enjoyed it. And one gentleman in particular, not mention any names, I'll let him do his own broadcasting, but he was hearing the fun I was having on 10 meters. So being he's an HF guy, he says I can't do C4FM. He went out and bought a 991. So he's been doing some C4FM and enjoying it too. Still doing his sideband and his CW, but you know, it's just another tool in the toolbox, and you know, it's nice to have that capability. So now, as I started to say earlier, the screen only holds 9 call signs. That doesn't mean that there aren't more there. So that little knob, first of all, you just tap the screen, take your little knob down there, and you spin your knob, and it's going to jump from box to box to box and go through all 9 of them. And if you happen to have 10 or more, the screen will rotate up as the next row comes up. Now, to give you an idea, let me see if I can pull this off here. Okay, so now I'm going to disappear here, folks. So as you can see, I've got both screens up here, and that last screen on the left, the last row down there where Joel is in the center, now has moved up because I rotated the knob and went down to the next level. So there were 2 more down there. So that makes a total of 11 calls that my radio has seen today, or as of the time this picture was taken earlier. At this point, I sort of wish I was out there because, you know, or in the radio room, because at this point it's fantastic having this and being able to talk to these guys in that better quality sound of digital. You know, it's just as awesome. It's just as awesome as doing it on 2 meters. Keep in mind, 6 meters, 10 meters, that's all you can do with C4FM because of the bandwidth. The bandwidth is too wide. It's like FM. You can't run FM up on 160 or 80 meters. It's prohibited because the bandwidth is too wide. So we are limited to the 10 meter and 6 meter portion of the HF bands. So that's, you know, that's where we are on that. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything else I need to tell you about the C4FM. Well, let me put it this way. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call, drop a line on the C4FM, or excuse me, on the Fusion Elmer Guy channel, make a comment. this, as soon as I get a chance to re-edit this video, I will go in and drop this up on YouTube, and it'll be there for your enjoyment. The other thing that I put down we were going to talk about, what was that? Geez, such a short memory here. You know, I have paper and pencil. I could write things down. Food for brain probably is what I need. Excuse me while I take a bite. Mama says, don't talk in your mouth full. You guys are all probably going back there. It's this, it's this. Okay, so I had on my list YAESU KISS. Now, how many of you know what that is? The YAESU KISS. So you've probably heard the KISS principle before. So if you've heard the KISS principle, it's keep it simple, stupid. Okay? Just remember that. Keep it simple, stupid. Now we've changed that for this. YAESU, keep it simple system. This is the YAESU system, and it's the simplest system to use in the world. Pretty much, number one, everything works tongue-in-cheek, but the minute I say this, they're really going to mess things up bad. That's what happens. With a few exceptions, almost everything works about the same. Okay? So, the GM button has the same things, press and hold or press or whatever, from radio to radio. The 991, the FT991, when it comes to DGIDs, it's got a weird way of doing things. Not that it isn't good, but it isn't, it isn't my thing. I can't get comfortable. Obviously, they didn't get comfortable with it because it's not being used anywhere else. The FT1, the FT2, and the FTM 400, the FTM 100, and there's some couple other radios that I've never played. I played with them, but I don't own them. They can't store the DGID in memory like they do the PL tone. So the PL tones get stored, but not the DGIDs. Now, in the FT3 and the FT5, the FTM 300, I'm sticking my foot in my mouth possibly. I'm going to tell you, I think the FTM 200, I don't have an FTM 200. I've never even played with one. But I'm guessing that you can store the DGID in memory on those also. Somebody might want to correct me if I'm wrong on there. Again, I'm not seeing anything here. I have no idea whether that means nobody's watching. I have no idea what it means. Just out of curiosity. Let me close the window, close the door here. Getting too much light in my eyes. Sun coming through the window. Um, okay, well, I know there's got to be another way to do this. Um, so I'm going to guess at this point we're not live streaming anywhere, regardless of what it says here, because I don't think it's saying anything along that line. Not showing it. Not showing it. Maybe I just don't know how to use this, but my chances are pretty great that I am, what I'm seeing is correct. Okay, so with that, I will give up on thinking about seeing that. Put that back down here. Easily get my brain changed around here a little bit. I forgot what I was talking about. But we're talking about keeping it simple. The radios are pretty much similar. Some rules of thumb to follow. Number one, keep your hands off the doggone Wires X button. That Wires X button causes lots and lots of trouble. Okay? So, the only time you want to push that Wires X button is to control the Wires X node. Not to talk, to control. So when you push that button and you make it active, your radio starts sending commands out. And if you don't know what you're doing, and you have a system you're hooked to, it can create problems. Now, I have a system of 17 repeaters. And we're using two linking systems. We're using Wires X, as the majority of people use, and we're using IMRS. Everything works fine until somebody tries to tie the two systems together, and we've already got them tied together, and then now everything starts going crazy. So, you know, usually if you have a system that is a system like we have, most of the time we don't recommend using the Wires X and steering it, because when you do, you're taking the whole repeater with you, and maybe all 17 repeaters. And that might not be what everybody wants to be listening to. So with a little common courtesy, that is probably not a smart move. If you're doing one repeater, then that's doable based, again, how it's hooked up. So if you're on a Wires X side of a Wires X linking system and you control it, when you do, you sever yourself from the rest of whatever's in your group. So everybody else remains working, but you now are separate. You're a standalone, and what you do nobody's going to hear except on your repeater. If you have an IMRS linking system and you have wires X on that system or on one of those repeaters, and you connect wires X, now you are connecting that wires X to that IMRS linking system, and everybody is going to hear, what's going on. If it's, if you're having a network or a net or something like that, that's a reason to do it. But if you just want to get on America Link and sit there for an hour and listen to people, that's it's fun at first. I'm going to tell you it is, because I know it is. I did it myself, but it gets to be old hat. And the other thing that gets to be old hat is they tailgate. And you got to have about 5 seconds of clear space if you want to bounce out of there. If you don't have 5 seconds in between communications, you're not going to make it. They tailgate all the time. And for that reason, I actually have a timer on my system. So we allow you to have 20 minutes. 20 minutes from the time you connect to another room. It doesn't make any difference whether you're listening, talking, or what's going on. It turns you off and reparks the repeater back to where it's supposed to be. Because I've had the repeater early, in the earlier days, a number of years ago, over and over again, get hijacked. And I call it hijacked because that's what happens. Somebody goes over to America Link, and then they can't get out. And they try and they try and they try and they try and they give up and they say, I got to go. Time to go to bed. Time to go to church. Whatever it is. They take off. And this thing runs for hours. And there's no, it's not their fault in essence. They just couldn't get out. So this is a safety feature I have, is to make sure the repeater doesn't unfortunately get hijacked. So anyway, as far as setting up the radio, Fusion radio, it's not like DMR, it's not like D-Star, or any of those others. You don't have to register anything. You just grab your radio, put your call sign in it, and use it. It works. The only item in the YAESU family that needs to be registered is a node. If you have an HRI 200 node, you have to register it before it will work. If you want to take your FT3 or your 400 or one of your other radios that are capable of being turned into a PDN, a personal digital node, if you want to take one of those and turn it into that, you have to register the radio as a node. It won't work until it is registered as a node. Okay? It works as a radio, but it doesn't work as a node. So that's the only thing that has to be registered is nodes. So if you choose to turn your radio into a node, it has to be registered. That's different than all the others. All the others allow you to do certain things. So you can talk on a repeater, I think, but if you try doing anything else, your radio has to be registered. So here, you don't need your radio registered to access a node, control a node, talk through a node, anything like that. There's no registration needed. It's only if you want that radio to be a node. And that's following the rules that they started out with, and that's having all nodes registered. Hope that clears up some things. Um, One of the things with the, like I said, the simplicity of it, you program these radios just like you would program an FM HT or anything else. You put your transmit frequency in, your receive frequency, your split, your PL tone. If you're using an AMS repeater and the repeater operator has set the repeater up right, you'll want to use rather than a tone, you'll want to use tone squelch when you set up your FM side of your repeater. So by doing this way, you don't hear the digital hash that comes back if somebody's in digital mode. You got a clean radio with no sound. If your radio is in AMS, it'll switch over to the digital side and you'll hear the conversation. But to set your radio up, you set it up as tone squelch, and then you need to know the DGID of the repeater if it's a digital repeater, and you put that in there. Now, most repeaters, if they're standalone, they're probably using 00. That's probably what they're using. That's the default, and that's probably what they'll use. And they'll do that, and everything's fine. But some people will set up a DGID code. Some will set it up DGID on the transmit and on the receive. Unless there's a real reason to set a DGID up on the receiver, you really don't want to do it. Leave it to 00. It picks up everything. I heard somebody on a YouTube channel said, "Oh yeah, I was using my radio, and we were on Simplex, and there was Joe and Bill over there. They were on Simplex. They were using 00, and me and Mike, we just went over and used DGID 25 on transmit and receive, and that way we didn't bother them. They didn't bother us. Everything was fine." Baloney! They didn't go back and ask the other guys. They were clobbering the other guys. Because 00 means I'm going to open up, I'm going to hear everything. And I'm going to transmit with no code. So, if you're looking for a code to receive, you're not going to hear them because they don't have a code. So they weren't hearing them because they weren't using their code to transmit. And they just assumed that because they were using a code to transmit and receive the same code, and they were hearing each other, they weren't interfering with anybody. That even if they were how shall I say, several sets of people on the same frequency using different DGID codes, all on the same frequency, you're going to have interference. Your sensitivity is going to change. You're going to be interfering with one another, so you may get dropout and stuff like that. I've never actually played with that, but that's what's probably going to happen. That's my educated guess. And talking about educated guess, I set my first repeater up for Fusion back about 8 years ago when they first released the DR1s. I picked up a couple DR1s and played with them on the bench for a couple months and learned a lot about them, and then eventually got one up on a hill, and then we used the other one on the bench to play with and learn, experiment, and learn more with. So I've been playing this game for a couple days. So I'm not an expert. I just have some working knowledge of what this does, and I feel I need to put this forth to you so you'll have a better understanding of Fusion, how it works, how simple it is. The biggest mistake people make is they overthink it. They think that they're working with DMR or they're working with D-Star, and they overwork it. I have terminology is another thing. So I do have a video on terminology. I have to admit it's a long one. I couldn't make it any shorter. There's a lot of stuff missing out of that, and I mean it's, you know, like they say, it's a long read. Well, this is a long listen. So I suggest if you're going to listen to it and do it, it's 45 minutes, and I'm not an entertainer, so and it was one of my first videos, so it a little on the dry side as far as the you know, presentation is concerned. The knowledge, the information there is good, but make sure you sit down, have an hour of time blocked out, and get yourself a nice beverage of your choice, and go through it and learn it. And I've had several people make recommendations or comments or suggestions about that, and I don't know what just happened, but everything just went off and came back on again. Wasn't that lovely? But anyway, maybe my time's up. Yes, I think it's getting close to my hour of time is getting close. Maybe that's what that's all about. But anyhow, someday I'll figure out a way to make that more usable. I can't come up with a good working way. I've actually got some stuff I'm playing with and trying to make it work that way, but we'll get to that. I want to thank you all. I know we haven't really talked on everything, and I don't know if anybody's even listening to this. A couple thumbs up somewhere along the line would be helpful. I haven't seen any way getting anybody in here, so this may have been a total failure. But I'll edit this and get it up on YouTube, I am hoping. And we'll chat with all you guys on the next one. I'm hoping to have another one of these soon. Once I get worked out where we can actually have communication from the audience. So, God bless. Don't forget to subscribe and thumbs up. Ring that bell. Make sure that that you don't miss the next one. I'll figure this all out, and maybe someday I'll be half as good on this as I am on fusion stuff. This has been an experience. It really has, and thank you for putting up and riding this rough road with me, and I'll continue to ride your rough road with you guys, and try to keep the cushion in the saddle for you. Okay, 7-3 guys. Talk to you all later.